that you have no idea where they came from, who is the manufacturer, what's the specific of the yarn, you know, all that information that we need when we start our projects. All right. So the name of the company is really, really important. The next information we have is the weight category of the yarn. And we talked about this a lot in our previous presentation when I talked about yarn weights. And there are many categories and many different ways that companies categorize the weight of the yarn. And the weight of the yarn, it's not the weight of the skin itself, not how much the skin weighs, it's the weight of the strand. And it's not even the plies. It's not how many plies are in a strand. It's the weight of it's a category of weight of the strand. The most popular is the standard yarn weight system that we all know classifies yarn into categories numbered from 0 to 7. The thinnest yarn in the 0 is the lace weight category, and the thickest is the jumbo category. So there are all the different categories in between. If you don't know them and if you don't understand them, I strongly recommend that you go to you watch the presentation that is in the group, free. Everything is free there in the group that I talk all about yarn weights. I go deep there into yarn weights, and then you can understand what's the difference and what each category of weight, what is it good for and what it means, and the hook sizes and everything. So we have to look in every yarn, in every label, what is the weight category of this yarn. Sometimes it does not say. I think that mostly in labels of yarns from Turkey or maybe from China, it just does not say. If I look here, this is Ice Yarns, which is a Turkish yarn also. I look at the label and I'm looking for the information of the weight of the yarn. In this particular one, let me show you, it's very, very small here. You can see there is this symbol here. I don't know if you can see. Okay, it's not so good. But there is this very, very small symbol here that represents the weight of the yarn, and it says here 4. I have to really look at it because it's so small. So we know that it's category 4 yarn weight. But sometimes, many times, they don't write it down. Let's see if the Alize has the category. Okay, here we have something very strange. We have here also a symbol here where is usually, we'll talk about it, the gauge, but inside there is, I think it's the needles. It says 5.5. So I don't think it's the weight category. We have to look around in the label to see if somewhere it's written the weight category. If we don't know the weight category, why this is so important? Because if we don't know the weight category, so maybe if we are in a project and we want to blend 2 yarns together, or maybe we want to not only use 2 strands, but maybe we want to use different colors, and we are using different yarns from different companies, it's usually recommended that we use the same weight yarn. Otherwise, our projects will go, like this. or that we will have to change hooks and the tension and everything. So it's really, really important that we know the weight category of the yarn. If we don't know it and it's not written in the label, so we have to find it out. And there is a system, there is a way to find it out. It's called wrap per inch technique. And also I talk about it in the other presentation where I talk about yarn weights. It's very, very simple, and then you can find out the weight category of your yarn. And then you are more sure, you're more, you can work your project and not be kind of, tense that something will happen and your projects will not look like the way you want it. So we have the name of the company and we have the weight category of the yarn. And then we have the physical weight of the skin. And that is when it says 100 grams or 50 grams. Let me see here. Okay, so it says here, let me remove this. If you look here, it says 70.9 grams, 2.5 ounces. So there are many ways to write weight. It depends on your country. Here in Israel, we use kilograms and grams, and I know in the States you use ounces. I don't even know how you calculate that. It's so strange for me, but yeah. And you use inches and we use centimeters, but it doesn't really matter because in the yarn label, it's supposed to be in both, how do you call it? How do you say it? Techniques, or I don't know the word in English to describe these differences. So we are talking about the weight of the skin. As I said before, I'm looking at the skin and I want to know how many grams or how many ounces it has. Why do I need to know how many grams I have? Because sometimes you get a pattern and it says in the pattern that you will need such and such grams or such and such yards, or you will need such and such ounces of this yarn and that yarn and that yarn. It's very important. So you also know how much yarn you have when you start your project. Because each skin, if it's 100 grams, obviously it has more yardage. If it's 50 grams, it has less. Sometimes you go and buy, and now that we all buy online, we don't look so much at all these kind of attributes, right? So maybe you thought you bought a 100-gram skin and you think, okay, I have 100 gram, which is around 210 meters. I'm talking in grams and meters because this is what I'm used to. And I say, okay, so maybe I need 2 skins or 3 skins for this project. And actually, I'm buying a 50 gram. So I will be short on yarn, right? So the physical weight of the yarn labeled in ounces or grams, the weight tells you the amount of the yarn in each ball or skein. Check the weight of the ball against the weight called for in the pattern, so you know that you have enough yarn for your pattern. There is nothing worse than starting a project and running out of yarn, right? Am I right? So you have to look for it and be very careful that you're not buying 50 grams when you need 100 grams. The next information that we have is the yardage. So you'll find the yardage. The yardage tells you the length of yarn in the ball or the skein. check the yardage in the ball against the yardage called in the pattern, so you know how many skeins of yarn to buy for your project. This is what we talked about. Sometimes it says you need such and such yards. Sometimes the pattern says you need such and such grams. So you have to know how to calculate and to know how much yarn you will need, if it's in yards or if it's in weight of the skin, right? Not weight of the category weight, but weight of how many grams, how many ounces there is in one skin. Again, you have to know the yardage. If you don't know the yardage, you can go shorten yarn for your project, and then you are in big trouble, right? Because then you have to start looking. Maybe you need only half a skin, and it's discontinued, and you don't know, and you're going crazy, and you're looking everywhere just to finish your project. Now, tell me in the comments if that happened to you. If it happened to you in a project that you just did not know the yardage, did not pay attention to the weight and the yardage, and then you ran short of yarn. Tell me in the comments. I want to see. Okay, it did. Yes, I don't know who is answering. Of course it did. To me, it happened many times. Many times I did not look very carefully, and then, it happened with one sweater. I remember now. I was crocheting a sweater for my daughter, and I was using the linked double crochet stitch, which is a very thermal stitch, and it eats a lot of yarn. I'm talking I think it was 2020 or 2021. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and it was in the times that you could not go out of the house, and you could not go anywhere to buy things, and everything was shut down. We all remember that. And I finished the sweater, and I was at the end of the sleeve, and I just needed a little bit more for the collar here. It was a turtleneck sweater, and I just didn't have it. I went crazy, and it was just one small last skein of yarn that I needed. I went crazy, and I asked anybody on the internet that I knew who lives near me, and maybe you have in your house, maybe from another project, maybe this, maybe that. Finally, I got one, but it was, bad. I went crazy from it. So it's better if you look at the label and then you calculate how many skeins you need, depending on the yardage that the pattern calls for. And I always take a little bit more, okay? It's not like, because of course it depends on your tension, and it depends on the size that you are going to work your project. It depends on so many things. I always take a little bit more. All right, we come to the gouge, thing that we all hate, but it's very important. So in the label, now I'm looking at the Paris drops. Let me move this. These drops Paris that I really like and I use a lot. Let me see here. Let's look for the gouge. In this particular label, all right, it says here, it's not like a square like we are used to, like 4 by 4 inches. It says here knitting tensions, 10 by 10 centimeters. I think drops is no way. It's from Norway, yes. So it's also centimeters. So it says the 4 by 4 inches, 10 by 10 centimeters, and it says how many stitches and how many rows you need for the 4 by 4. Now this is really important. But it's just, how do you say it in English? It's just a rough calculation, because it depends on your tension, how you crochet. It depends on your tension, it depends on the size of the hook that you choose, it depends on many things. But it's an estimation, that's the word I was looking for. But it's a very good estimation that they will tell you that if you use this yarn with the particular hook that they tell you to use, we will talk about it in a minute, so you will roughly need such and such stitches and such rows for the 4 by 4. And then you can understand and know, depends on the size of your project, again, how many skeins you will need. It all goes to how many skeins we will need, all right? And what kind of yarn we are using. If we are using this weight category or this weight category, and what we are looking for our project. So the gauge, it's really important. It gives us more information about how many rows and how many stitches and how many skeins we will need. So as I say here, your crochet gauge measures how many stitches and rows you'll make in a given area, usually a 4 by 4 square. It's very important because it will affect the size of your finished project. Of course, when we gauge, we know the size. We calculate how many stitches, how many rows, everything. And when we talk about the gauge, we always talk about the hook size, right? So the next information that we are looking for is the hook size, the hook recommended. The hook recommendation usually comes with a weight category. So inside the squares, you'll see some numbers and letters that indicate the recommended size of knitting needles or crochet hooks to use this particular yarn. So usually it will go hand in hand. Let me remove this. Hand in hand with the weight category of the yarn. Because if we are having a lace category, so we are probably talking, I don't know, 1.5 millimeter, 3 millimeter hook. Again, I'm using the millimeter technique and not the American symbols. But, the very, very, very thin hooks, if we are talking weight number 4, Aran or worsted, so probably it will be between 4 and 5 millimeter hook, and bulky it will be 6, and chunky will be 7, 9, and go on and go on. But it will always go with the weight category of the yarn. And if you can see here, let me show you. I try to show you in all kind of different labels, so you can see that mostly look the same. But some of them are kind of different. It depends on the company, it depends on the country, it depends on, all kind of things. But most of the symbols are universal, so you can understand. And if you don't understand, so you can imagine what they mean. If you don't understand the language it's written, so you can imagine, because the symbols are universal. So here in this Kinko Aran, it says here Aran, so we know it's weight category 4, and it's can can you see it here? Then you see the needles, right? So it says 5mm US 7. And it's right next to the gouge, right next to the gouge. Okay? And here in this is another yarn that I use a lot, Signet, which is also from the UK. And again, you can see it here. Right next to the gouge, we can see the needles. And it says 6 to 6.5. So between 6 and 6.5 hook size or needle size, you can use with this. This is a 4 weight. Again, this is very interesting. If you look at this label, it says Signet Chunky. So when I looked at it the first time, when I bought it, because I bought it online from the UK, I thought, okay, this is a chunky weight yarn. I like chunky weight yarns. I don't like very, very thin yarns. So we'll see how I work with it. But it's not. You know, there is a difference in the UK, US and UK standard names of the stitches and everything. And probably there's also a difference in the weight categories, because this says chunky and it's not chunky. It's worsted, Aran, category number 4. I use it a lot, and it says here to use it with the hook number 6 or 6.5. I usually use it with 6, sometimes 5.5. I don't go beyond 6 because it's not bulky, definitely not chunky. So it's something between, I think it's around worsted and not more than that. So even if it says chunky, you have to be careful and check. Let me put it back. So the recommended hooks are also, it's a recommendation. You don't have to. It depends on your pattern. It depends if you want, because sometimes, like I have designs that I use around weight or even DK weight category, and I use 6mm. It's not recommended for 6mm, but why I do it? Because I decide that I want the pattern or the design to be very loose and very open. So I can use whatever hook size I want. It depends on what I want to design. The recommendation is for the gouge that they put on the label. If you use the 6mm hook and you use this yarn and you make 14 stitches and 19 rows, like it says here, so you will have you're supposed to have a square of 4 by 4 inches. This is what it means. But of course, it's a recommendation. Let's move on. Okay, the fiber content. Fiber content, again, I think everything in the label is important, okay? Because it gives us all the information we need so that our project is amazing and it's great. And we are not going to frog it, and we are not going to be disappointed, and we are going to love it, even if we are going to gift it. So we are going to love it, and it's going to be great. Fiber content, it's big issue, right? Because you have to know what are you working with. If it's 100% wool, I can give you an example. I made an order from the UK, the place that I always order, and I did not notice that the yarn that I ordered was 100% wool. I don't know. I didn't look at it. And when it came back, it's 100% wool. I never use 100% wool. I don't even know how to use it. I will have to go and learn how to use 100% wool and how to take care of it and, everything. I usually use blended wools, yarns. So you have to know the content of your fiber. It will give you an idea how the yarn will feel and how it will behave. If it's a very thick and heavy, and I don't know, it's a combination of, I will show you. Here, I have a yarn that I bought, I think 3 or 4 years ago. Let me move this. Look at this. What do you think this is made of? Tell me in the comments, what do you think this yarn is made of? What kind of, what does it, what is the content of this yarn? Tell me in the comments if you can guess. It's very sturdy, feels like kind of cotton, right? It's not acrylic, it's not soft. It has these bumps here. It's not a straight strand. So what do you think the content is? Somebody want to say something? Attempt to guess. So this is made of banana. Banana. I have no idea how they made it, but this is made of banana leaves and some other contents. I don't have the label for it because I bought it, I think, about 3 years ago. And I thought it was so cool. They made a yarn from banana that I will have to wool blend, wool, 100% wool. No, it's banana. Can you see how sturdy it is? Very sturdy. It's soft, but it feels soft. It's very heavy. Very heavy. The skin is very heavy. So you have to know the content. The content of the yarn will tell you a lot of information, how it will drape, how it will feel on your body. Maybe if you want to gift what you're working on and somebody is allergic to something, you have to know. If there is alpaca, if there is bamboo, if it's cotton, if it's blended, if it's, all these kind of, there are so many possibilities, right? So you have to know the content, and also so you know how to take care of it, which is our next slide, or in a moment. We'll look in the label and see about the care, how to care for the yarn. So the content is always on the label, always. It says, let me see, where in the original, where is it? Here. It says cotton here. There is a drawing of cotton and it says cotton. And it says it's from Canada, 100% cotton. It's in various languages, and it says 100% cotton. And here it says 100% premium acrylic. So you know this is acrylic. Maybe somebody does not like to wear things with the plastic and all this. One moment. There are some people who do not want to wear things acrylic because they are eco-friendly, conscious about the environment, and it's very important for them. You know, each and every one with their whatever they want to wear. You have blended kind of content, fiber content. You have straight only acrylic. You have so many, all kind of polyamide and all kind of strings and a lot of things that can be inside of the fiber, and you have to know what's inside in order to, first of all, if it's good for your pattern, if it's good for your project, and second, I think, if you are going to like it, if you are going to feel good wearing it or using it, you know, for the purpose of the pattern. So the fiber, let me see here. Here it says, again, 100% acrylic. Where is it? 100% acrylic. In every label, it says the content of the yarn. But I have here an example that I was keeping here, and I wanted to show you. This is a yarn I bought, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It's Nako. It's Turkish yarn. And it's very, very thin. And I used it 2 strands together because it's too thin for me. I don't use so thin yarn. But look at this label. It does not have any information at all. I don't know the content of the fiber here. I don't know the yardage. I don't even know. It says here it's 50 grams. The only thing I know it's 50 grams. And there are a little bit of care symbols here, how to care for it. And it says fancy yarn. What can you learn from fancy yarn? What does it mean, fancy yarn? I went into the, and it says all kind of things in Turkish that I don't understand, but I think it's just here. I think it's just the name of the company. I went into, there is a website. So I went into the website and I looked for it so I can have more information. I couldn't find it. Maybe it's a discontinued yarn. I don't know. I couldn't find it. So if I want to use this yarn for a project or for one of my designs, I cannot write in the pattern anything about this yarn. I don't know the yardage. I don't know the content of the fiber. I don't even know the weight category. I can assume, I can look using the wrapper inch technique and then find out the weight category. But this label is very, very incomplete, which is, I don't know, it's not most labels like this, all right? But I wanted to show you that sometimes that's what we have. All right. Okay, the color name and dye lot. We have here, again, this is information that we need because we don't want to find ourselves with different colors and looking for a specific dye lot and not finding it. And having to frog the whole project because we don't want to introduce a kind of a different shade of the same color, all right? So in each label you have here the name of the color and the number of the dye lot. Sometimes the shade is a number, and sometimes they have also a name. Not always a name, but a number for sure, and sometimes a name also. You know, it gets fancy. You have this, what's this? Light, it says here light gray, and this one is sage, the name of the color, and this one, let me see what it says. Stonewash, you know, all kind of fancy names. What's important in it is that we have the same yarn with the same shade, the same dye lot in our project, okay? The dye lot is the number assigned to a batch of yarn that has been dyed together. It can be the same color, but it's a different dye. It can be the same number color, but it's a different dye lot, so it will look a bit different. So if you need a lot of skeins for a project, you are going to need to look at the dye lot number and try to buy from the same one. So you are more sure to have yarn that looks the same. And this is not only for, you know, if you buy a yarn from a private business that they dye, hand dye, or if you buy from a company. It's the same. Even the companies, the big companies, they write the dye lot, so the numbers, so you know to buy the same. Because it can be a very slightly different colors. They can be drastically different, and they can be even slightly different. But when you're working your project, you will notice it. And it's very annoying. We don't want that, right? All right. And then we come to the care instructions. And the care instructions are, again, very important. If you're gifting, if you're making something for yourself, you know, each month I give you some care tags that you can put on your free download PDF that you can print and cut and put on your projects if you're gifting them. Because if it says that you should wash it in 30%, 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, we use Celsius, not Fahrenheit, so I will talk in Celsius. I don't have any idea how you convert it to Fahrenheit. So if it says 30 degrees Celsius and you put it in the washing machine at 90, you will probably have a different project. If it's 100% wool and you put it in 40 or 60 degrees Celsius, you will have a different project after that. So it's very important. If you put it in the dryer and it's not supposed to be in the dryer, so it will shrink. You know, all these things that are so annoying that happened just because we didn't look in the right place and had the right information. And it's all written in the label. So you can see here, let me take this off. You can see here these symbols. These are the symbols that tell us about the care instructions. So we have here, it says 40%, 40 degrees Celsius, so you can wash it in the machine. And then it says no drying, but you can iron it, right? There is an iron here, no drying, and washing in 40 degrees. And here, let's see what it says. Oh, it's so small, I cannot see. But you can see here all the care instructions. Okay, so here you can wash it, you cannot dry it, you can wash it by hand, and you cannot iron it as well. Here, let me see. Okay, here in this label, it says again here, you have to look for it because each company, they put their symbols in different places, but they all look the same. So it's international. Everybody can understand. Again, you don't dry it, you don't iron it, but you can wash it in 30 degrees. So the care instructions are super important. We don't want to finish our project and be happy, and weave in all our ends and, you know, put it in the washer and then get a different project that it shrank, or maybe it got bigger because of the dryer. Sometimes it makes it a little bit bigger. All right. Okay. That was all the information that we can look in the labels. There is one more thing that I didn't talk about, but sometimes labels have patterns. If I don't know if you knew it, probably yes, but sometimes I think, I don't want to say mostly the American labels, but maybe also European, maybe also the Scandinavian ones have patterns. But sometimes in the label, on the inside part of the label, you can find a pattern. It's so small, but it's a dishcloth. Lily and Sugar and Cream, they have a dishcloth pattern that you can follow, and it says exactly everything, and there is a diagram and abbreviations and everything. And even here at the end, there is instructions for care instructions, how to care for the dishcloth. So it's more information that we get in the label. So look how much information we have in this little piece of paper that we can understand and make our projects even better. So now we get to some tips. I call them pro tips. Pro tip number 1 is keep your labels. Keep them. When you're working on a project, keep the labels. Put them in a bag. Put them in a, I don't know, something. Stack them together. Keep the labels until you finish your project. It's too easy to forget which yarn is which, especially if you have a big stash and then you don't remember and you put it back and you stuck it whatever in your cupboard or wherever you keep your yarn, and then you want to use it again, and then you don't know which yarn is it, and what does it mean, and what's the all the information that we have at the label. It's so annoying. There are many ways that you can keep the labels. I personally keep every label from every project. I keep it with the project until I finish the project. And then I keep the labels with the yarn that is leftover yarn. And if I finish the yarn completely, so I have here, I want to show you, because I'm going to change it. I have here, let me remove this. I have here little bags, all kind of bags with labels like this, from different projects, from different things. I have a whole drawer full of them, and I keep them. So maybe I'm using the same yarn later for another project. So I know I have it here. And also what I do, if you can see, I just put a little bit of yarn in the label so I know which one, which number, which color, everything. Now, this is not a good system, right? These little bags, it's not a good system. So I was looking and I went to our local dollar store today by chance because I was looking for something else, and I found this. And I think these are brilliant. I'm going to change my system. I found these binders. You see here. So I'm going to put the labels here, and then it's going to be closed, and they're not going to go away. So every time I'm looking, maybe I will buy a few of them and I will categorize them. So I will put them in the drawer, but it will be all in one place and not floating in these kind of little bags that I have. I didn't have any other system. I couldn't find a binder. Just today I found one. So keep the labels. Don't throw them away. Keep them. If you keep the labels, you will always have the important information about the yarn at hand. Plus, some companies even include a free pattern. That's what we talked about, the back of the label, and maybe you want to look for it. Maybe you want to walk that pattern. And pro tip number 2, you can store your labels in a number of ways. You can attach it to the gouge. Now, this is another thing that I do. Where is it? I want to show you. I have this. Let me move this. I have this notebook, and these are all designs. Okay? So when I start a design, like this one, all right, I make a gouge. I know, crazy, but I make a gouge because I want to know the tension. I want to know how the stitch pattern looks. I want to know if I want to incorporate a few colors and whatever. And then I stick it here to the page. And sometimes I put the label as well, like here. Where is it? Like here. So you can use this technique as well. If you have a notebook where you keep your patterns, if you write down, if you have a tracker, you know I have a tracker on Amazon. You can buy one. You can get one. I think there is a link in the group. I'm not sure, but I will put a link later in the group. So this is one method. You can stick it together with the gouge or with the pattern that you write. Maybe you change something. Maybe you want to remember. Maybe you need this for a different, for a next project or whatever. So stick them together. Just stick them together like this. And of course, the second method is what I showed you in a notebook binder along the project notes and sketches. This is what we talked about. Or we can use this method that is this kind of binder where we keep all our labels and then we can find them. There is nothing more annoying that when you want to start a project and you have the yarn and the label is not in the yarn, not attached to the yarn, and then you don't know where it is and you start looking in all your stash and everything. So if we can be a little bit more organized, it's better for us. This is it for today. Thank you so much. Tell me in the comments everything. If you have any questions, if you learned anything new from this presentation, if you liked it or not liked it, please share in the group what you learned from this presentation so I can know for future ones. All right? Let's see if there is something in the comments.